Hi everyone, we are about to enter one of my favorite readathons. Next month is TBR-thon Harvest. Leandra is one of my best friends here on BookTube, and when Leandra did TBR-thon last year, I had so much fun playing all the different boards. Now this year, I am co-hosting another readathon at the same time, so I'm going to have to double up with TBR-thon Harvest with Fablen, which is totally fine because I know that's going to be possible because both of these creators made it possible to do so. But I kind of need to know what my TBR is for TBR-thon before the month starts so that it makes it easier to double up. So instead of rolling as I go like I did in January, I am going to do a TBR and roll, find out all my books, and collect all the black cats. Leandra cannot give me the option of collecting all the black cats and I don't do it. That's just not okay. I must collect all the black cats. So how many books will I need to do that? It will depend on how many it takes me to get around the board, and also if I can double up with the cat prompts or if I need to pick separate books for those. It will just depend on what books I own and how easy those prompts are to double up. So let's grab our TBR Harvest board and escape the corn maze. Roll number 1 is a 5 and gets us to Spooky Book. Now for our first roll, we got the roll of Spooky Book. We did pass a black cat though of mostly black cover. I am going to combine these. That's pretty easy to combine a spooky book with a mostly black cover. Now, I don't read a lot of horror, but one of the horror writers I do like is Grady Hendrix. Something about Grady Hendrix's humor really works for me in his horror books. So I do have one on my shelf that works exactly for this prompt. And that is Final Girl Support Group. I recently picked this up at a book exchange event in the theory that I would read it over spooky season. So here it is. Perfect first book for this TBR. So in this book, we follow Lynette. Lynette is a final girl. She survived a massacre and is now going to a support group in therapy with 5 other final girls. They're trying to move forward from whatever horrible thing they all survived. One week, though, one of the girls does not show up and they realize that something horrible has happened. Someone has found out about the group and is trying to kind of end these final girls. Doesn't necessarily sound like something I would normally pick up, but again, Grady Hendrix has usually been a winner for me. Horror Store is one of my favorites, and I'm excited to read this one. Roll number 2 is a 4. TBR Backlist Read. So next we had a TBR Backlist Read, which is a lot of my bookshelves, so, that's fine. I need to read a lot of TBR Backlists. But we also passed a cat space with the prompt of C, A, and T in the title. And I found this so hard. All of my backlist books would have a C, but wouldn't have a T. Would have a CT, wouldn't have an A. I don't know. It was very hard for me to find a book that worked. So I actually had to go outside of my spooky books and my fall books and go with a very, very pink romance. So it does not necessarily have the fall vibes, but it has been on my shelf for a really long time and I do need to read it. And that is Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodney. Now, I think this may be a YA romance. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might be, which does concern me because I definitely do not read YA romance very often anymore, which is probably why this has been sitting on my shelf for so long, is I bought it when I did read YA romance and now I don't, but it would be good to read it and get it off the shelves. Maybe I'll like this one. Every once in a while, one comes around that I do like, and it is about books. So that's a plus. Okay, I remember now as I'm reading the synopsis why I wanted to read this book so badly, and it is listed as YA. I double checked, but they are both graduates from college, so I think this would maybe be new adult. Now, if that would have been a classification when this book came out, it's been out for a while and sitting on my shelves for a while. We'll see as I read it, but it does give me hope. In this book, we follow Madeline, and Madeline is coming home after college to run her family's bookstore, and the bookstore is called, I actually don't know. Oh, Books and More. I was going to say, I thought I read it. Books and More. And it's a family bookstore. It's an indie bookstore, and she's trying to keep it afloat now that she is going to run it. However, a big box store for books called Prologue has just opened down the street. And this is why I wanted to read this book. I remember distinctly that it gave me You Got Mail vibes, with this like small town bookstore, big bookstore, and a romance between the two owners. Our male protagonist who's running the big box bookstore is Jasper. They start fighting against each other to get the other bookstore to close, and obviously a romance does happen. It does really give me You've Got Mail vibes. Roll number 3 is a 6, but it did roll off camera, so you're gonna just have to trust me on this one. And I got cryptid read. Now for our next prompt, we got cryptid read. This one was very difficult for me. We also passed a black cat space, but I could not find a book that was a cryptid and also filled that cat spot. So we're going to talk about that cat spot in a second because I'm going to have to fill it with another book. So we'll come back to that. Let's first talk about my cryptid read. Luckily, I did haul a book very, very recently that will work for this prompt. The Monsters of Eldenhaven works for this prompt. I had to actually ask my patrons to help me with this one when I did the rolls because I was like, what do I do? What do I even do with this one? And someone remembered that I had hauled this book and we were like, yes, that works. Plus it's short. It's going to be super fast. You wanted to get it in over spooky season. So here's the time. Here's your moment. So this follows, obviously, the city of Eldenhaven. And in this city lurks a thing with no name, a thing shaped like a man with dark heart and long, pale fingers, yearning to wrap around throats, a monster who cannot die. So that is what we follow. And we follow this monster as its master sends him out to do very spooky things to this town. It'll be a really quick read, and it's perfect to actually pick something off my shelf for this prompt because I really am trying to stick to TBR books for TBR-a-thon. Now, let's go back and talk about that black cat that I passed, which was Cat in the Book. Now, on the same day I picked up that book that I just talked about, I picked up another book that has a cat on the cover, and the cat is talked about in the synopsis. So I feel like there's a cat in the book. How much the cat plays into the book, I do not know, but there is a cat in the book. So that counts. And that is Really Cute People by Marcus Harwood Jones. This is a poly romance I recently picked up. I've been really excited to dive in, so luckily I can. In this book, we follow Charlie. Charlie is feeling a lot of job burnout, work burnout, life burnout. Charlie is burnt out. So when a work trip comes up and Charlie's asked to take it, he jumps at the chance to get out of the city and to just get away for a little while, even though it's for work. Charlie opens the door to his supposedly private rental and sees that the house is not empty. There are people living in this house. There's a bird. There's a cat. Hayden and Buffy are the people who already live there, and they decide to share the house, and obviously a romance happens that is a poly romance. When I talked about this one in my book haul, there was a couple people who had read it and told me in the comments that it is really, really cute, and I'm excited to get it on the TBR, even though, again, it's not really fall or spooky. I feel like this TBR is already a mix of fall and spooky and really cute romances, which will be great because I don't tend to lean towards spooky, so I kind of like having these light, fluffy romances in there too. Roll number 3 is a cozy read. So then we got a cozy read, and we did pass a black cat of Cat on the Cover. I really had to look at my shelves and find so many cat books. I'm not mad about it. I'm really not. For me, cozy, I don't read a lot of cozy mystery. I do read cozy fantasy, but none that would double up with a cat. So I went romance for this and decided to grab a romance that I had a cat on the cover because romance to me is cozy, it's comforting, it's easy to read, and just like a warm hug. So I grabbed What the Cat Dragged In by Kate McMurray. Funnily enough, I grabbed this at the same book event as Final Girl Support Group. These are all books that I have brought in very recently. So I'm not necessarily tackling a lot of older books on my TBR, but I'm getting through those newer books that I've been hauling. In this book, we follow Paige, and Paige works at a cat cafe. I want to be Paige, basically, because that would be so fun. She's having a hard time in the dating scene, so her boss is like, take a break, go get a hobby, take a break from guys for a little while, and find something else to do to like take up your time, and then come back to guys later. So she decides to start like working at a cat rescue. However, Paige does meet a guy at the cat rescue. His name is Josh. He's a law school graduate, and he is helping his sister with stray feral cats and working with the cat rescue as well. He teams up with Paige, and obviously there's a romance that happens. I feel like this is the most cozy and cat book that I could possibly put on this TBR. Rule number 4 is go back 7 spaces. And gets me a autumnal cover. Well, then the TBR-athon board was kind of mean to me and made me go back 7 spaces. 7 spaces. With that, we landed on autumnal read, and I knew exactly what I wanted to read for this book prompt. This is a book that has been on my shelf for over a year. I've had my eye on it for fall, and now is the time. And that is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. Now, I feel like someone told me this is Harry Met Sally, that's what this book is, that it's like a retelling of such things. Am I remembering correctly? I'm not sure, but I feel like someone told me that. In this book, we follow Ari and Josh. They immediately do not like each other when they first meet because they are dating the same woman, and obviously that makes things a bit messy. Years later, after a breakup, they reconnect and actually become friends and turn into friends with benefits, and we all know where things go from there. This cover screams fall, screams New York in the fall, and I am so excited to get it on this TBR. Roll number 6 is a 5 and gets me book involving food. And roll number 7 is a 6 and gets me to the end of the board. So as you can see, I actually combined those last 2 rolls in that clip because we got to the end of the board and the end of the board doesn't have a prompt, but I need to get my final black cat. So I needed a book that involved food that was witchy vibes. Now for this one, I had to go outside my physical TBR. I did not have anything that really worked for this prompt on my physical TBR. I would have used the Spell Shop had I not just read it last month. That would have been perfect, but I've already read it like very recently, so I'm not going to reread it right yet. But I did have something on my Kindle TBR that worked, so I didn't have to leave my TBR behind. I just had to look at my ebooks. And I found a book that I got on Stuff Your Kindle Day a couple of Stuff Your Kindle days ago. It's been sitting there for a while, and now is the time. And that is Sugar Butter Magic. Obviously, this is witchy vibes with food. The title just tells you that right off. In this book, we follow Cassie. Cassie is newly divorced. She's a single mom, and she has recently inherited an entire bakery. Luckily, the bakery has an apartment above, and that is where her and her children can live. I don't know how many children she has. It just calls her a single mom. I'll find out when I go. But the apartment magically adjusts itself to her whims, which sounds fabulous, really. Can I have one? So actually, I think she just has a daughter because later it says her and her daughter do move in to this bakery to give it a try, to see if this is a place for them, to see if the magic creeps them out, and they start running the bakery. And I don't know if this has much more plot than that or if this is really a cozy fantasy. I got it on Stuff Your Kindle Day, so I know only a tiny, tiny bit about it, but it's a perfect time to get to this Kindle book. But that is the end of my TBR-athon Harvest Escape the Maze TBR. I have a good amount of cat books because I did not mention this, but the Sugar Butter Magic, the bakery is next to a bookstore. So do you think there might be a cat in it? Just accidentally, I'm really hitting cats heavy on this TBR. And like I said earlier, we do have a really good mix of spooky season and romance, which is kind of perfect for me for fall, because I'm not a huge spooky reader, so I will need some lighter books to kind of offset that. Hopefully some of these work for Fablen. I'm sure they will, and you may see some of these in Timmies if I can double up when I do my Timmies rolls. I haven't done that yet. Hopefully Timmies is kind because I already have a 7-book TBR. So hopefully Timmies is nice to me. Hopefully I'll be able to get through them all and actually escape the maze. We shall see. Let me know if you are participating in TBR-athon Harvest and also what activity board you're using, because Leandra made so many amazing boards and they're just so fabulous. So like, how do you choose one? I mean, it's hard. It's a hard decision. So let me know which one you're doing down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.